competence and learning outcomes, how qualifications are built in Europe. The European Qualifications Framework for Lifelong Learning, the Framework for Qualifications of the European Higher Education Area, and the Copenhagen Process are the main reference points informing how higher and further education qualifications, respectively, are built in Europe. These processes aim to create a common language and structure for qualifications across Europe, enhance mobility between institutions, education sectors, types of learning, formal, non-formal and informal, and countries. Foster quality assurance across member states. Build a stronger link between the education system and the labor market. Promote lifelong learning. Support flexible learning pathways. The main operational principle behind the Bologna and Copenhagen process is the creation of learning-centered and output-focused qualifications based on competences and learning outcomes. European Certificate in Psychology. EuroPsy is a European qualification that complements national standards. However, it is not a license to practice in a particular country. Psychologists interested in applying for a EuroPsy certificate are welcome to contact the National Awarding Committee of the country in which they would like to apply. The EuroPsy, or European Certificate in Psychology, is intended to provide a standard of academic, education and professional training which informs clients, employees and colleagues that a psychologist can be considered to have gained the necessary competences for the provision of psychological services. EuroPsy aims to set a common standard and competence in all the countries where it is used. It envisages the free movement of psychologists across the countries of the European Union and in other countries which have accepted the standard, and aims to support mechanisms to facilitate this. EuroPsy builds on the educational framework and minimum standards of EuroPsy T, accepted in 2001, and the so-called European Diploma Framework agreed in 2005. These earlier projects devoted considerable attention to the variety of educational, occupational, and regulatory settings that exist in Europe. It has been noted that educational curricula have tended to differ in length as well as in the presence or absence of differentiation of specialization. Considering such differences, EuroPsy was introduced to provide the standard to evaluate academic education and professional training of psychologists across the different countries of the European Union and other countries within EFPA. Any psychologist who meets the standard, a university education in psychology of at least 5 years and at least 1 year of supervised practice, can obtain a certificate and be included in the register of European psychologists. EuroPsy has been developed under the auspices of the European Federation of Psychologists Associations, EFPA, which also oversees the development of specialist certificates in more specialized areas of psychological practices. Guiding principles and competences relevant for psychologists. There are several guiding principles which are embedded with the EuroPsy. and which have underpinned the development and expansion of the EuropeSci to date. The prevailing principle of EuropeSci is quality assurance to protect consumers and citizens in Europe and to protect the public against unqualified providers of services. The standards set by EuropeSci aim to guarantee the qualification for psychological practice at an entry level to the profession as well as beyond, and to respect national regulations for psychologists which are already in place. The EuropeSci aims to facilitate mobility across Europe whilst maintaining a high quality standard, whilst working to ensure that the EuropeSci system is fair and avoids favoring or disfavoring psychologists based on national or other differences in educational or professional background. The Bologna process emphasizes the development of professional competences and thus the enhancement of qualifications and employability as important aspects of higher education. The Dublin descriptors define the features and complexity of the qualifications that should be achieved in the different levels included in higher education. In a similar vein, the EuropeSci Certificate of Psychology has emphasized that the curricula for the education of psychologists preparing for professional practice should be designed considering not only the academic content of the discipline, but also the professional competences required for adequate professional performance. This approach emphasizes that the education of the psychologists must enable them to develop the competences required to fulfill the role of professional psychologist, at least at the initial level of professional practice without supervision. Input models are valuable for accessing the equivalence of provision at the organizational and institutional levels. However, the output model becomes important for assessing the equivalence of competence at the individual level. The focus on assessment of outcomes competence is somehow unfamiliar to current practice in many universities, which focus on defining inputs, examining knowledge and skills, and time-serving notice of practice. So there is a need to balance an input and an output approach. Bearing this in mind, together with the Dublin descriptors, it is possible to differentiate 4 types of competences that should be developed during the education of psychologists and during the period of supervised practice. Basic or generic competences. The basic competences of the EuropeSci framework have been divided into 5 categories: self-management, information handling, communication, teamwork, and academic competences. According to the EuropeSci framework, the next level of competences in terms of specificity are primary competence, which are those competences relating to the psychological content of the professional practice process. Again, at a more generic level, in the EuropeSci framework, enabling competences for professional practice are those enabling the practitioners to render their services effectively.